I never imagined that a simple act of kindness from my son would lead to a moment I would never forget. Life had not been easy for me. As a single mother, I had poured everything into raising my son, Daniel. Since his father walked out on us when he was just a boy, we had built a life together, just the two of us against the world. Daniel was my rock. He grew up fast, taking on responsibilities beyond his years. He wasn't just my son, he was my support system. At 22, he was strong, responsible, and deeply caring, always making sure I was okay. But lately, I hadn't been okay. The long hours at work had taken a toll on my body. My back ached constantly, and no amount of rest seemed to help. One evening, as I sat on the couch rubbing my sore shoulders, Daniel noticed my discomfort. "Mom, let me help," he said, moving closer. I smiled, waving him off. "You don't have to, sweetheart. I'll be fine." But he was insistent. "Come on, just for a few minutes. It'll make you feel better." I sighed and relented. He had always been thoughtful, always taking care of me in small ways. As his hands pressed into my shoulders, I immediately felt relief. He was surprisingly good at this, working through the tension in my muscles with firm, confident movements. I closed my eyes and exhaled. "That feels amazing, Daniel. Thank you."
See?
"Told you," he chuckled. His voice was warm, reassuring. I let myself relax under his touch, appreciating the rare moment of peace. It reminded me of when he was little, how he used to hold my hand whenever we crossed the street, how he would curl up beside me when he had nightmares. I had raised a good man, someone who cared, someone who understood the importance of love. Minutes passed in comfortable silence. His hands moved carefully, methodically, and for the first time in days, the pain in my back faded. I couldn't help but smile. "You should have been a massage therapist," I joked. Daniel laughed. "Maybe in another life." We talked about his day, about work, about nothing in particular. It was nice, just the two of us, like old times. But then, something changed. It was subtle at first, just a slight hesitation in his movements. His fingers lingered a little longer than before, pressing a little more gently. A sudden awareness crept over me, an unexplainable shift in the air. I opened my eyes and glanced at him, but he wasn't looking at me. His expression was unreadable, his focus intent on his hands. A strange sensation rippled through me, but I pushed it away. This was Daniel, my son. I was probably imagining things, reading too much into a simple moment of care. Still, a part of me tensed. I cleared my throat. "All right, I think that's enough for tonight." Daniel hesitated, then pulled back. "Okay," he said softly. I forced a smile. "Thank you, sweetheart. I really appreciate it." "Anytime, Mom." He stood up and stretched. I watched him for a second, studying his face, searching for something I couldn't quite name. Shaking off the uneasy feeling, I told myself I was just tired. Just overthinking. But as I went to bed that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted between us. And I didn't know why. I lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling, trying to understand why something felt off. It wasn't the massage itself. Daniel had always been caring, always looked out for me. But something about the way his hands had lingered, the way his voice had softened, unsettled me. I told myself I was imagining things, that it was just exhaustion making me read too much into it. Morning came, and I went about my day as usual, pushing aside the nagging thoughts from the night before. Daniel acted normal, as if nothing had changed. Maybe nothing had. Maybe it was just in my head. But when he hugged me before leaving for work, I felt a flicker of hesitation in myself, a hesitation that had never been there before. Days passed, and life resumed its usual rhythm, but the moment still lingered in my mind. I started paying closer attention, noticing little things I hadn't before. The way Daniel would watch me, as if studying my reactions. The way he spoke to me, a gentleness in his voice that felt different now. One evening, he came home with a small bottle of massage oil. "I thought this might help with your back," he said casually. I forced a smile, ignoring the slight discomfort creeping in. "That's really thoughtful, Daniel. Thank you." That night, as I sat on the couch rubbing my temples, Daniel approached me again. "You look exhausted. Let me help." I hesitated for a second too long. He noticed. "Mom, it's just a massage," he said, a hint of amusement in his voice. I let out a breath, nodding. "Of course." He started again, his hands firm but careful. I tried to relax, tried to ignore the strange tension in my chest. I wanted this to feel normal again, the way it used to when he was just my son helping his tired mother. But it didn't. Something had shifted. As his hands moved lower down my back, I stiffened. He felt it immediately and pulled away slightly. "Am I hurting you?" "No," I said too quickly. "Just tired." He didn't push, but I saw the flicker of something in his eyes. Disappointment? Frustration? I wasn't sure. The silence between us stretched longer than usual. I could feel my pulse in my throat, my mind racing with thoughts I didn't want to acknowledge. I forced a laugh, trying to break the heaviness. "You're getting too good at this, you know. I might start booking appointments." He chuckled, but it felt forced. "You're my only client, Mom." Something in the way he said it sent a chill through me. I ended the massage sooner than before, mumbling something about getting ready for bed. Daniel didn't argue. He simply nodded, watching me with an unreadable expression. That night, I couldn't sleep. My thoughts kept circling back to him, to the way he had looked at me, to the way I had reacted. I felt guilty, confused, unsettled. But the worst part was the question I couldn't shake. Was I imagining all of this? Or had something really changed between us? I tried to ignore the growing unease, telling myself I was overthinking. But my body betrayed me. Each time Daniel was near, I felt the tension creeping in, a hesitation that hadn't existed before. I hated that I felt this way. I hated that I even had to question it. Then one night, everything changed. I had been lying in bed, exhausted, when I heard a soft knock at my door. Before I could respond, Daniel stepped inside. His expression was unreadable, his movements careful. "Mom, I just wanted to check on you," he said. I offered a tired smile. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just a long day." He hesitated, then held up the bottle of massage oil he had bought. "Let me help. It'll help you sleep better." Something in my chest tightened. I didn't want to say yes, but I couldn't find the words to say no. I didn't want to make things awkward. I didn't want to believe that anything was wrong. I sat up slowly, turning my back to him. "Just for a few minutes," I murmured. His hands pressed into my shoulders, the same as before, firm, steady. I tried to focus on the relief, the way my muscles loosened under his touch. But I couldn't. The air between us felt different, charged in a way that made my skin prickle. Then, without warning, his hands moved lower. I froze. Every instinct screamed at me to move, to say something, to stop this before it went any further. But for a brief second, I couldn't. My mind raced, searching for an explanation, a way to dismiss it as a mistake. But deep down, I knew better. I pulled away abruptly, my breath uneven. "That's enough," I said, my voice sharp, more than I intended. Daniel stiffened. "Mom." "No." I cut him off. "This stops now." A heavy silence filled the room. He looked at me, something unreadable in his expression. Guilt. Regret. Something else. "I'm sorry," he whispered. I swallowed hard, my hands trembling. "Go to bed, Daniel." He didn't argue. He simply nodded and walked out, leaving the door slightly ajar. The moment he was gone, I exhaled shakily, pressing a hand to my chest. My heart pounded so loudly I could hear it in my ears. I had spent years protecting Daniel, raising him to be a good man. And yet, in that moment, something had cracked between us, something I wasn't sure could ever be repaired. I sat there for a long time, staring at the door, trying to make sense of what had just happened. But no matter how hard I tried, there was only one truth I couldn't escape. Something had been broken tonight, and I didn't know if we could ever fix it. The next morning, I moved through the house, as if on autopilot. My mind was numb, my body tense, every step weighed down by the events of the night before. I wanted to believe that I had imagined it, That exhaustion had clouded my judgment. But the look in Daniel's eyes, the hesitation in his movements, it was real. I could no longer deny it. Daniel barely spoke to me that morning. He avoided eye contact, kept his responses short, and left for work earlier than usual. I didn't stop him. I didn't know what to say. The silence in the house was suffocating. I spent the day replaying everything in my mind, questioning myself, questioning him. Where had I gone wrong? Had I been too affectionate? Had I blurred the lines without realizing it? Or had this been growing inside him for years unnoticed? When evening came, I braced myself. I knew we couldn't go on like this, pretending nothing had happened. We needed to talk, to face whatever this was, to put an end to it before it destroyed us. Daniel came home late. I was waiting in the living room, my hands clasped tightly in my lap. When he saw me, he hesitated, as if debating whether to turn around and walk away. But he didn't. I took a deep breath. "Sit down, Daniel." He did, but his posture was rigid, his jaw tight. I chose my words carefully. "Last night, it can't happen again." His fingers curled into fists. "I know." I searched his face, looking for answers, for some explanation that would make this easier to understand. "Daniel, you're my son. I love you, but this isn't right." His eyes darkened with something I couldn't quite place. "I never meant to make you uncomfortable," he said, his voice low. "I swear, Mom." I nodded, but it wasn't enough. "Then tell me why," I whispered. For a long time, he didn't answer. When he finally did, his voice was barely audible. "I don't know. I feel close to you. It's always been just us. And sometimes I forget where the line is." A lump formed in my throat. "Then you need to remember." He exhaled sharply, looking away. "I will." A heavy silence settled between us. I reached for his hand, squeezing it gently. "We'll get through this. But we have to move forward the right way." He swallowed hard and nodded. "I don't want to lose you, Mom." "You won't," I promised. "But we have to be better." He stood up, lingering for a moment before turning away. As he walked down the hall, I felt the weight on my chest begin to lift, just slightly. There was no easy fix for this, no way to erase what had happened. But we had made a choice to step back, to heal, to move forward. And that had to be enough.